Hey folks, Matt Sharp here with another Pacific Angler Friday fishing report. We're filming for August 20th, so if it's nowhere near August 20th, click up here. This is a link to all the Friday fishing reports. We do it most weeks when I haven't been out fishing, and we should have something more up to date with you. With that in mind, I did go fishing. It's been a long time, but I've got an update for you guys on the Skagit. We're gonna go over the flies that worked. We're gonna go look at those water numbers because it was bad when I was out there, but it has gotten a lot better. We're gonna talk through that. So if you're heading out that way, this will be one to stay tuned for. Also, federal election got called, and I'm going to tell you guys two things for free. One, I need a haircut. Two, probably not voting for these guys in the upcoming election, but I'm not going to hold it against you if you guys are. SFI came out, Rob Alcock, with some good questions to ask your MP in the coming election to see where they sit on policies that affect fisheries because, well, quite frankly, they've been utterly mismanaged this year, and I am mildly concerned as a knuckle dragger who doesn't understand many political issues but does understand the fisheries political issues. If they manage other things like they've managed the fisheries, I'm mildly concerned for our country. I'm not going to go more into the politics because that's not what you guys are here for. Let's talk more about the fishing. I've got a Vetter report update. Nothing's happening really good there yet. It's still probably not worth going. We're still looking for September there. Taylor's got an update in the written. I'll go over a little bit about what we're seeing. Squamish is another story. A bunch of fish moved in, but there are some caveats there. There's a lot of snagging going on. We're going to talk about maybe how you can avoid that, some things to look for, because the reports have been good of lots of fish, but the water clarity is a major issue. We'll look at the weather. We'll look at what we expect going forward if you are heading up Squamish way. Now, we also got beach reports we're going to talk about. We've had guys out up Indian Arm, up Howe Sound, right in the harbor, and the reports have been good. Andre's got a fly in that regard we're going to talk through, but I'm also going to give you the reports of where you might want to head out if you don't want to go to the rivers and you want to hit the beaches. Last but not least, we are going to talk saltwater fishing, and the reports continue to be good, though there were some wind issues this week that made things a little bit hard to predict. That said, there's a lot of options, and we're all holding our breath waiting for that opening come the 1st, but there's still some good things to do and get out there, and it's well worth it. As always, guys, you want to see more reports like this, consider hitting the like button, hit the subscribe button. Let's get into her. All right, guys, cheers to Friday. Thanks for joining me. Let's start right off with the weather because it's pretty good news actually, and it's good news because it's not scorching hot. And usually I'm sort of a guy who likes the warm weather, but this season's been interesting, and we have been keeping our eye on a number of water temperatures, as well as water temperatures on the Fraser, which really does affect sockeye migration, pink migration, as well as other species, and those are species that are in concern right now. So it's good to see some cooler or more temperate weather. And rolling into today, when you guys are watching this, we might be getting drizzled on. As you're watching, full disclosure, I'm filming Thursday night. And then it gets nice on Saturday, 21 with some cloud, 19 with some cloud on Sunday, maybe a drizzle here or there. Monday, 20. It warms up a little bit Tuesday, but it's going to hold this nice like 20-degree sun cloud with a touch of rain mixed in, which may not be the best beach weather. It's not bad beach weather, but it's excellent fishing weather. Why? Well, the cloud cover keeps the fish a little less wary, both on the beach and on the riverfront when you guys are going up sort of trout fishing. And cloud cover and cooler nights really does help bugs getting in. We're going to talk about the Skagit, where there were very, very little hatches when I was out for 3 days last week. But we're going to talk about how to solve that problem and the reports that came in this week of a little bit more in the way of bug hatches, and that bodes well for that fishery. Now, when we do roll it out to the Chilliwack region, you're going to see it a little bit warmer, but we're not seeing a major jump in temperature. Let me just pull it up here for you guys. So yeah, very similar, maybe a little bit more rain, maybe some thunder showers on the weekend, but nothing that should concern us, barring major safety issues of thunder. It does look like there's a fair chunk of rain coming, maybe 10 mils on Friday as you guys are watching this, so that could actually be a good thing for the Vetter as well as the Skagit. The Vetter is noticeably low right now and could use some water for the fish that are in the system. And the Skagit can always use a little bit of water this time of year because it's usually low and usually getting warm. Okay, let's talk the Skagit because that's a fun one first. And yeah, I was out and it was, I would say excellent. I had a great time, but I won't lie, the day fishing was very, very challenging. It actually hit 38 degrees when I was out fishing on Thursday. I just sat in the water and melted and drank a beer and enjoyed life, but I also was taking temperature gauges on the water. And I got stuff ranging from like 58, 59, all the way up to 62 and sort of the slower moving stuff. Now, 65 is a major concern. That's where I usually consider hanging up my rod just personally. And then the good news is that with the cooler weather this last week, I did get some reports of it dropping back below 60, sort of high 50s, which should bode well for the rest of the season as long as we don't get another very extended warm spell. Now for the fishing, I am going to share some flies with you guys today. The day was grindy. It was a nymphing affair for the entire day. There wasn't much coming off on dry flies. I did throw a dry fly. I think I got 2 on smaller parachute style Adams flies. Let me see if I got my box here. I'll share that with you guys. Here she is. Yeah, I was throwing like a small, let me find one here. Throwing a small parachute Adams. Yeah, probably something like this. I'll just throw it up here. You guys might be able to see that. Probably won't focus. There we go. Something like that. Fairly straightforward, fairly simple. That's a size 10. 12 would work as well. It's one of my go-tos for when nothing's happening. But like I said, there was no bugs. There was even less mosquitoes than normal. They were still there, of course. It is the Skagit. But I also was throwing my normal sort of Prince Nymph sort of variations. Oh, that little guy there. And yeah, it worked. But the best fly for me was the small girdle bug. This little guy here, sort of the variegated, the variegated style girdle bug. Very, very simple pattern, very easy, but quite small. This one I fished for most of the day and it was extremely effective. Then roll into the night, things really picked up. And this is a tip that I sort of talk about in the written version of the report for any trout stream you're on. I usually tend to cover ground really quickly when there's nothing happening hatch-wise. Fast nymphing, fast streamer fishing, even just fast dry fly fishing, trying to cover as much ground as possible. And then what I do throughout that day, maybe I covered 4 or 5 kilometers, 6 kilometers, maybe 10 spots. I picked the spot that was the best, meaning it's usually fairly deep, usually fairly broad, and maybe I got 2 or 3 fish out of it on the fast move sort of style of fishing. Well, I want to be back there when nature starts doing her thing. And so in a hot temperature day on any river, it's usually in the evenings that things pick up really good. And so get back to your best spot at the end of the day, sort of between 4 and, well, dark. And you usually do well. At that point, dry fly fishing did kick off. There was still no hatch, but the fish were just aggressively feeding. And big, old, gray Drake-style patterns seem to always be the ticket when you've got hungry fish. For me, at least, sort of size, well, big. If I could get them in 8s, I would, but these are more sort of 10s. But big guys like this, very, very effective for me. So there's the report there. If you guys are heading out, make sure you guys get those in the box. We've got lots in the store, so come on down. Let's talk Vetter. Well, it is not good right now. It's slow. I wouldn't recommend heading out that way. It might be worth a scout. The fish that are in it are fairly old and not very bitey. The water level should bump up with this rain that we're seeing, which could be a good thing, could be worth looking at. But the major migrations of fish usually are way into the back end of August, early September. Sort of September 10th has always been a good day for pinks, for early Chinook, for early coho, and then it's sort of go time around the 20th. So you maybe do a scout mission, but I wouldn't recommend that one highly. And then let's talk Squamish, because this is one that's been interesting. So there's been a noticeable slide on the Mamquam. They're doing some road work and a bunch of clay got in, and it seems like it's going to keep coming from the bank. It's very unstable. And that's made the Mamquam, which is historically more clear this time of year, turn to absolute cement in color. And literally you can put your pinky finger in and you can't get 1.5 inches in without losing sight of your fingernail. Which is obviously making fishing a challenge. The main stem is also quite dirty and didn't clear up as much as we hoped for because of the cooler weather. We're not quite sure why. It is still quite warm. It is historically not good color there, but these mix of two, the Mamquam and the main stem being dirty, has made for some very challenging fishing. Now, there are lots of fish there. But because of so many fish and such dirty water, we have heard reports of lots of folks snagging fish. Now, I get it. We've all snagged a pink. If you've gone pink salmon fishing, it is almost inevitable that it's going to happen at some point, but it's the angler's responsibility to try to avoid that. A couple ways you can do that. Well, the first one is don't drag big, heavy tips through fast, shallow water. That's where the fish stack up and they can't get by your line. Second thing is try going lighter. Try going with a lightly weighted fly and maybe a floating line, or a light sink tip if you're a fly guy, or go with short leaders when you're float fishing and don't drag the bottom with weight. As an angler, if you snag fish 3 or 4 times in a row in one spot, you need to change your gear or you need to move the spot. Sometimes the spot just doesn't set up right for the angle. It sets up perfectly for lining the fish, but it won't set up perfectly for putting a fly or a lure hovering in front of them where they have the opportunity to bite it. So I'd really encourage those folks, if you get into a spot, you hook a couple fish, oh, they come in the back, oh, they come in the fin, oh, they come in the side, oh, I got one in the mouth, take a look at it, make sure it's not on the outside of the mouth, because we all know what that is. We call that flossing. And then just move and just say, okay, that's not the right angle. I am harming fish more than a mouth-hooked fish, and do your part to make sure this fishery doesn't get shut down. I won't go into more detail on that. You guys all know what to do. Now, the other fishery that we want to talk about is the egg fishery, and it has started. You can get up to the upper reaches of the tributaries in the Squamish areas that are clear, and the pinks have made it up there now, and that means big bull trout. And if you guys are bored, tired, or just can't kind of figure out how to catch a pink properly down in the lower river, break out those trout rods, you know, those 4, 5s, and 6s, throw on the indicator, throw on the trout bead, and go at it. This is one of my favorite times of year when pinks are coming in, because a lot of those big fish that are moving into spawn in November, the big bull trout, are going to be hungry and eating hard right now, and it can be really cool. Okay, on the beach stuff has been better this week. We got some reports. John was out, he got this nice one. Did it on some sort of pink clousery style stuff worth putting in your box. Andre's got reports as well, said the catmouth was producing fish. He's got a cool fly I'm going to share right here with you guys. It's kind of an interesting one. He's goofing around with sort of like an angled shrimp using epoxy. Now, he hasn't tested this yet. He was just goofing around with it. It's just sort of a proof of concept. And so we wanted all you guys to know, but he is getting out and testing it, and I've got high hopes for this one. Might be fun to look at just to incorporate some of the technique that he uses, because it is a semi-unique fly. All right, well, I also said I'd talk about the politics side of stuff, and I'm going to link the SFI one here, but the big one is we want your MPs to know that you care about fishing, and also for you guys to ask them the right questions. What do they think of a marked selective fishery in saltwater? What do they think about the hatchery programs and how they're run with not clipping fish that are going back, as well as what they're going to do with money that has been allotted this year, but we have no clue what they're going to do with it. And the announcements has been very vague. It's going to be important in this election, and I know it's not maybe the most important topic for most people, but again, if the way this government managed this fishery is similar to the way they manage other things, we've got some questions to ask of them. All right, guys, that's everything I've got for you. I'm going to put a thing on salmon leaders. I'll throw it up here. It's a good one going forward for the coho coming up. I'll throw Andre's fly up here as well. And as always, you want to see more reports like this, consider hitting the like button, hit the subscribe button. I'm going to catch you guys in 2 weeks.